Yo, what's going on, everybody? You've seen the thumbnail, you've read the title, and today I want to talk about the fun dilemma in Call of Duty and in video games in general. And I actually just came up with this term randomly, but anyways, as I'm sure you're wondering, what exactly is the fun dilemma? And this can be applied to pretty much any video game, by the way. But the fun dilemma is that typically when you are having the most fun, and I say typically here because there are some one-off occurrences that I will talk about later, but typically when you are having the most fun in a video game, the enemy team is not having as much fun. So it's a moral dilemma in the aspect that, okay, should you sacrifice some of your fun so that the enemy team can have more fun, or should you try and maximize your own fun because, well, the developers, it should be their job to make sure that the game is fun for everybody. And then the developers have to face that same dilemma because when you make a game that is fun for everybody and is extremely balanced, it typically ends up having the complete reverse effect and not being fun for everybody, and typically ends up actually being a very boring video game. And this kind of ties back to a video I made a while ago, which I don't really remember what it's titled, but some of you guys might have seen it. And it's the video where I discussed the fact that people would rather play a unbalanced fun video game than to play a super balanced unfun video game. And the thing is, it's super hard to get in the scale of both directions. And the biggest example of this fun dilemma that I can think of for Call of Duty is Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 2 is either the most fun Call of Duty game you've ever played, or it is the least fun Call of Duty game ever. There's not really much times in Modern Warfare 2 where both sides are having equally fun, because typically in Modern Warfare 2, one team is getting absolutely stomped into the ground, and the other team is not having absolutely any fun. And that is quite literally the biggest example of it, especially with a lot of things like one-man army noob tubes and stuff like that. It's really fun to use danger close noob tubes, stopping power LMGs, and all that stuff in Modern Warfare 2. That's really, really fun, but the problem is then the enemies are having absolutely no fun. When you play against that stuff, it is the most infuriating thing ever. It's extremely frustrating to play against, but the other person is having fun. So why exactly is this a dilemma? Well, it literally fits into the, definition of dilemma, which is having two or more difficult choices, both which are unpleasant. Now, these two unpleasant choices are, A, do I dial back my fun in order for the enemies to have more fun, or should I be selfish and just take all of the fun for myself? Now, obviously, there is the whole thing of, well, I think you should have some sympathy. You should have some sympathy for worse players. You shouldn't use the best setups against them. You should try and make sure that they have fun. But the counter argument to this, and which makes a lot of sense, is that that shouldn't be the player's responsibility. Me as a player, I shouldn't be responsible for whether or not the opposing team is having fun, because that should be the dev's responsibility. But the problem with this is that the devs can't fix it, because this is exactly what skill-based matchmaking tries to solve. Skill-based matchmaking tries to make every match that neck-and-neck close gameplay, which was really fun in Call of Duty because it was a novel one-off experience beforehand. It was something you didn't have a lot. You typically didn't have lobbies where you had to try hard to actually do well. But now that skill-based matchmaking is in, that's all so common that it isn't fun at all. So going back and, pretty much subtracting skill-based matchmaking out of this equation here, the devs can't really fix it because they've tried to fix it with skill-based matchmaking, and it doesn't work. It just, quite simply, it doesn't make everybody have fun. Skill-based matchmaking arguably, and, well, not really arguably, pretty much makes everybody have entirely less fun. But when you are having the most fun, typically in Call of Duty, it's when you are doing the best. So, again, being the dilemma, do you dial that back or do you be selfish? Because you can always make the argument that it's the dev's fault. And this is where the entire dilemma comes in, because you don't want to give up your own fun, right? You could also just as easily make the argument that if the enemies aren't having fun against you, they should just leave the lobby. Go play another game. Go play a single player game. You could make all of these arguments, which are all completely fair arguments to make. So that's where the whole dilemma sits. And it sits with the dilemma of the developers. Do the developers make a very balanced video game and then, people don't have as much fun? Or do you make something that's Modern Warfare 2, which is like 50% of the time you're having a lot of fun and the other time you're not having fun, on average. Like, on average, a 50-50 split. On average, half the player base is having fun and half the player base isn't having fun? Do you make something like Modern Warfare 2, or do you make something very balanced where it's like you're not having as much fun, but typically there's not as many people who aren't having fun? That's where the whole dilemma is, and I think it's something that's really interesting to think about, because realistically there's no way of solving it. There's no way of actually solving this dilemma. It's always going to be a hard choice for not only the developers but also the players. Personally, I tend to try and make sure that the enemy team has fun, like in Black Ops 4, because I've developed, a decent amount of skill at Black Ops 4. I typically tend to not use very broken things like the micro or the VMP or the crossbow, but I like those guns. I like using the micro in Black Ops 4. It's one of my favorite guns in Black Ops 4 to use, but I don't use it that much because I try to have sympathy for the other players, knowing my own skill level at that game. And some people would say, well, you shouldn't have to do that. You should just be able to use whatever you want. But, I don't know. It's a very personal thing. It's a personal dilemma. It's a dilemma. It's a dilemma for the developers, and I just think it's something that's very interesting to think about. So, with that being said, if you did happen to enjoy this video, make sure to drop a like, sub to the channel, turn on post notifications. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below about this. And with that being said, have a great rest of the day, everybody. Bye-bye. Peace out.